Becoming a chronological adult obviously comes with a lot of new responsibilities. We become responsible for our finances, for getting a job to have said finances, for using those finances in the ways that we want to have the clothes that we want, the housing situation that we want, the food that we want. We get to choose where we go and who we go there with, what we do with our days and with our time and with our choices. But what doesn't automatically come with becoming a chronological adult is becoming an emotional adult. There doesn't seem to be the push or the resources or the information that is readily available to become emotional adults. So as a result, many people get stuck in their emotional childhood because they don't have the tools, the trainings, the teachings, or the resources to become emotional adults. So today, we are going to work on that. We are going to work on becoming emotional adults, and I'm going to give you 5 simple things that you can start doing today to start building your emotional intelligence, your emotional maturity, and moving into that emotional adulthood, because it feels so much better to feel like we are in charge of our thoughts and our feelings and what we do on a daily basis, how we are living with intention, reaching our goals, showing up in our jobs, in our relationships, and our days, how we want to be thinking, how we want to be feeling, how we want to be living. All of this comes with emotional adulthood. But first, if you're new here, welcome to our incredible little corner on the internet. Take a second, introduce yourself in the comment section below. You're back again. It is always good to have you here. My name is Kristina, and I am a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a coach, a speaker, and an author, and the creator of my exclusive membership community, the Shift Society, where we are taking this work to the next level, and you are being guided and supported the whole way through. You can get more information about the Shift Society in the description below. I help heart-centered humans think better, feel better, show up better so that they can like themselves and their lives more every day. And the first thing that we need to become emotional adults is we need to be taking on what's called a growth mindset. So many people get stuck in this idea that I am the way I am, I feel the way I feel, I react the way I act, the way I react, I have the issues that I have the problems that I have the struggles that I have, and there's nothing I can really do about that. Now that is a thought. That is not a fact. And if you like that thought and that thought that you are the way you are and there's nothing that can be done, and even if you tried, nothing would change. If you like that thought and that thought feels good for you, then have at her. But if that thought makes you feel stuck or trapped or hopeless or helpless, then I'm going to suggest taking on another type of mindset, which is the growth mindset. And that comes with the thought that my being, how I am, how I'm thinking and feeling and showing up, and the things that are triggering me and the ways that I'm reacting to things, those can change. The things that I'm struggling with, I can move through. That there is possibility for me, that there is better for me, that there is hope for me, that there are changes that I can make, and more joy and freedom that I can have. Also a thought, but take a second and ask yourself, how do I feel when I think that set of thoughts? Which set of thoughts are going to compel you to take action, to do something different, to get to where you want to be feeling how you want? And I have to tell you, just a little aside, there are so many people that have come in to join my membership community, the Shift Society, who have said to themselves, and even some of them to me, I didn't think there was any hope for me. I thought that I would always struggle and suffer and be in pain and be stuck where I was. But there was like this little glimmer of hope that you gave me, Julia. And so I decided to try the Shift Society. And that's why I'm here, very full of doubt that anything could help me, that anything could get me unstuck, that anything could change these patterns, or that anything would do that deeper inner healing. And holy cow, this has. I've tried so many things in the past, and this has been the thing that has finally gotten me unstuck. I am thinking better. I am feeling better. I am showing up better. I'm having better relationships. I have better things going on with my job. I have better friends. I just feel better as a person. And I'm creating the life that I've always wanted, that I actually never really thought that I could have. And so even if a lot of the people who've come to the Shift Society came in very skeptical, there was still that little bit of growth mindset kind of hanging on there that it could be possible. And because of that, they took the action, and it was. So part of becoming an emotional adult is this growth mindset that it's always possible for us to learn and to grow and to shift and to change things about ourselves that we're not loving and change into the things that we do love. That there's that possibility to create better and more for ourselves from the inside out. The second thing we need to become emotional adults is a healthy self-awareness. Recently, someone in the Shift Society asked in one of our live Q&A sessions, what is the difference between healthy self-awareness and being a micromanager of our every thought, feeling, action, or mood? And the difference is that when we have a healthy self-awareness, we have the chance to reflect on our actions, reflect on our words, reflect on our feelings, and kind of figure out what's going on there and how we want to be showing up differently, how we want to be thinking differently, how we want to be feeling differently. So become more of a coach for ourselves versus a micromanager. And you can think about that. A coach is going to see where you have areas for growth, where you could be reaching more of your potential, where you're getting stuck, and what would be helpful for you. And they're able to coach you through that in an encouraging and supportive way. Whereas a micromanager is going to be scrutinizing and criticizing your every move and picking it apart and calling you down, judging you for it, making you discredit yourself or doubt yourself. So that is the difference. Building a healthy self-awareness is really tuning into ourselves and asking ourselves, what's coming up for me? What emotions are difficult for me? Where am I getting stuck? What am I fearing? What's holding me back? What is triggering me? And why are those things triggering me emotionally? And just sort of getting more of that healthy self-awareness and the deciding consciously what we want to be doing differently. The next step to becoming an emotional adult is probably the hardest one, at least it was one of the hardest ones for me, is to take responsibility for your feelings and your actions and not going around and blaming other people. Well, if they hadn't done this, then I wouldn't have done this. And I see this so often with my children, and I think a lot of children kind of in this developmental stage where they are in the blame game. Well, if she hadn't looked at me weird, I wouldn't have hit her. Or if she hadn't put one hair in my room, then I wouldn't have gone in there and stolen all her things, or whatever that is. Right? And they have this like, well, it's not my fault. If they hadn't done this, then I wouldn't have done this. If they wouldn't have said that, I wouldn't have gotten angry. If they wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have lashed out. If they wouldn't have treated me this way, I wouldn't have given them the silent treatment for 3 months. So really looking at that and being like, okay, instead of blaming them for my feelings, I am going to look inward and take responsibility for my feelings. I'm going to get curious about my feelings and notice what's coming up for me. And this can be a really hard one because it's so much easier to blame other people for our thoughts and feelings and reactions than it is to look inward and get curious about what's coming up for us and why. However, it might be easier to blame other people. But essentially what we are saying when we blame others is that another human being's brain is more in charge of my brain than I am. What comes out of somebody else's mouth from their brain, what somebody else's actions do from their brain, have more control over my thoughts and feelings than my own brain does. And if there's anything that's more disempowering than that, you let me know. So I say to my children often, You are in charge of your actions and your words. Your brain is in charge of not what somebody else does, but how you choose to react to it, how you choose to respond to it, what you do next. Nobody else is in control of that. You are always in charge of what you do next. So, taking responsibility for our thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions, and of course, knowing that we're all human and we're all going to mess up. We're going to yell, we're going to get angry, we're going to flip out, we're going to get triggered, we're going to say things we don't mean, we're going to do things that we regret. But we are not going to shame ourselves and judge ourselves and criticize ourselves. We are going to get curious and learn from it. And then we are going to work on what is underneath this, what's coming up for us. And then we are going to do something different. We are going to think something different. We are going to feel something different. We are going to do something different because we are in charge of us. We're also going to apologize if we make a mistake, if we screw up, if we hurt someone intentionally or not. So many of us struggle with apologies, but it's so easy. It is so much easier than you think to just say, you know what? That was not cool of me. I messed up. I let my feelings get the better of me and I yelled or I lashed out or I said things that I didn't mean. I was not handling myself well. I did not cope with that well, and I am sorry. I say this a lot, but I truly, truly mean it. And whenever I do say sorry, that is not just oh, sorry, as like this, like wash away everything I just did. But sorry needs to come with a genuine attempt and a genuine commitment to ourselves to work on better for next time. The next thing that's going to cruise us right into emotional adulthood is to break the pattern of people pleasing. So you might be wondering, Julie, what's the difference between being a people pleaser and just being like a kind, thoughtful, generous person? Well, I'm going to tell you. Usually being a kind, thoughtful, generous person feels good. Usually being a people pleaser might feel good in the moment, but then feels bad later on. Being a people pleaser is when we are trying to meet other people's wants, needs, and preferences, or even requests at usually a significant sacrifice or detriment to ourselves. So people pleasing comes in when you want to say no, but you don't because you don't want the other person to have any thoughts or feelings about you that you don't want them to have. Or you want to kind of uphold yourself as this person in their eyes that is so wonderful and so great and always says yes and is always there for everyone. And usually the motivation behind people pleasing is to try and get a sense of self-worth from other people's approval of us, to try and get a sense of value from other people being pleased with us because we don't have it on the inside. And so then what happens is we do things we don't necessarily want to do. We commit to things that we really don't have time for. We agree to things that are actually not okay with us. And then we end up feeling overwhelmed, stressed out, burnt out, maybe even bitter and resentful because we had to do this thing that this person wanted us to that we didn't want to do. Whereas being a kind, thoughtful, generous person comes from a place of abundance. I have lots to give. I am well taken care of myself. I am feeling good within myself, and I want to give generously from this place of love and abundance. And it doesn't feel bad because we know that we have the choice to not do it, to say no, to have boundaries for ourselves because we know that those no's and those boundaries, when and if we need to, are the thing that creates that wholeness within us because we're not depleted. We're not running on empty. So it keeps us filled up. And so we don't set boundaries or say no as a punishment to other people, but as a preservation to ourselves so that we can also continue to give fully and freely without that bitterness, that resentment, or that burnout. So breaking those people-pleasing tendencies and really taking stock of yourself and doing the internal work within yourself to build up that more sturdy, hardy sense of self so you don't need to be hustling to get it from other people. So building that more sturdy, solid sense of self comes from building a sturdy, solid relationship with ourselves that is built on trust, learning to trust ourselves. Like any solid relationship, the foundation has to be trust. Same with a solid relationship with ourselves. I have a guide for you. It's called The Simple Steps to Self-Trust, and it's for you to be able to learn how to build that self-trust within you as an individual, learning what's important to you and who you are, and teaching you how to lean right into that, cultivate that, and grow that from the inside out. So make sure you get that simple steps to self-trust. Our next thing we need to do to become emotional adults is to work on cultivating healthy relationships. Now, that might sound so simple, but you're like, Julia, that is a big, tall order. And yes, this is probably the biggest one out of these that we've talked about so far to become an emotional adult. But let's just break down a few things of what it takes to build healthy relationships. It takes honesty. It takes integrity. It takes authenticity. But it takes all of those things while also being considerate of other people's feelings. Not doing the people-pleasing thing by trying to control their feelings and trying to make sure that they are happy and good all the time at our own expense and to our own anxiety, but just being considerate of others. Following that golden rule, which is so simple but so profound, treating other people the way that we want to be treated. It comes with being honest with other people, but with some gentleness in that honesty. Not just be like, well, that person's an idiot, so I'm just going to tell them they're an idiot. That level of honesty is not super helpful. But being able to give constructive feedback, to be able to have hard conversations, and to be able to communicate in a clean, clear, and classy way. Having healthy relationships involves telling people what we're thinking, how we're feeling, again, in that clean, clear, and classy way. It comes from asking for what we need, but also allowing other people to say no and have their own boundaries and not feel like it's their responsibility to meet all of our needs all of the time. It means being a good listener and being there for others, while also sharing vulnerable things about us when it's safe to do so, and allowing them to be there for us. Start with those, and I have a feeling that they are going to get you a very long way. Becoming an emotional adult is just skills that many of us didn't learn, that we weren't taught, that we weren't modeled, that didn't come with our university degree, but that we can learn now. It is never too late. Remember that growth mindset? Even if you feel like I've got so much work to do, a brick house, a brick mansion, a brick estate is only built one brick at a time. And so that is what we're going to do. We are going to lay one brick. We're going to start with one thing from this talk today and be like, that is one thing that I want to work on. And I'm going to work on laying the bricks to build that part of the structure before I overwhelm myself with anything else. I'm going to focus on what's in front of me, what I can do now. It doesn't have to be hard. It just has to be intentional. So start with laying one brick to build one part of the overall building. And you can do that. Anyone can do that. Make sure you get that simple steps to self-trust to start building that sturdy, solid, secure relationship with yourself from the inside out. Always good to have you here. Until next time, take good care of yourselves. Take good care of those around you. Bye for now.